edition of Iowa Revolution. My name is Spencer. He's Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob, good to see you.
Good to see you, Spencer.
A lot of stuff to cover today. We actually have a little bit of good news to talk about today. First of all, I think Democrats should feel pretty good after a couple of, one victory yesterday, and then Cory Booker, I think, helping a lot of Democrats just with confidence at this point. So let's just get right into this. By the way, top 5 at the end of the show will be top 5 Canadian comedians. So wait for that. By the way, thanks to everybody that is joining us live. This is Iowa Revolution. My name is Spencer. He's Dr. Bob. We are coming to you on the Deep Midwest Substack as well as the Iowa Revolution Substack. So you can follow both of those, again, at Substack. This is from KCRG TV. Hundreds of millions of dollars worth of possible grants for Iowa institutions have been cut as Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, cuts federal spending. That's according to its savings webpage. There are 3 main agencies eligible for grants that are being cut: the State Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship, and the University of Iowa. A majority of those grants being cut were for Iowa HHS. It's losing up to $407 million in eligible grants. The Department of Ag and Land Stewardship is losing roughly $11 million in eligible grants. That money was set aside to buy food for the school and adult care food programs. And $9 million worth of possible grants are going away from the University of Iowa. Some of that money was being used to fund the Freedom of Expression creative writing program. What do you got, Dr. Bob?
I thought it's nuts. I mean, they're breaking the system. They're attacking the institutions. They're, undermining, all those institutions that make America great. I mean, HHS, what could possibly go wrong? Getting rid of all, so many scientists, so many people making doing such innovative research. It's just total system disruption, attacking the university. It's fascism. It's textbook fascism, coming after the intelligentsia, coming after institutions that keep us safe. This anti-government rhetoric that has been, around since Ronald Reagan has totally undermined our fundamental institutions for the sole purpose of, we've talked about this so many times, it's just to have all of the public money go into private hands. It's just crazy, and it's also, let's just think about it. We're not the only ones to talk about this. As you say, government doesn't work, then you underfund government, then you try to dismantle it, and then what you've created, what the Republicans have created, becomes a rationale for privatization. And this is privatization on steroids. It makes any other Republican administration look really weak. And I just think, if you look at agriculture and the tariffs, if you purposely wanted to destroy rural America, you couldn't do it in a better way, in the sense that what they want to do is drive out every small farmer that they can. All the big boys love this. They want all the land to be in the big agribusinesses' hands. And it's the same kind of thing with our national parks. Just everywhere you look, that they're dismantling it, and the results are going to be dire. I was at the State House yesterday and today, and there were a lot of little kids there. And I just love watching, the little kids look up and see our beautiful Capitol. But then I'm just thinking, the Republicans are making sure that these kids are hungry. And I'll see a group of 50 and I'll think, look, probably 30 of these people, or 30 of these little kids are going to go hungry when we could help them. And, and the whole system is rigged against most people. It's hard to make a living. It's hard to, there's just so many different things working against us, income inequality. And now Trump is, I don't know how many courts he's defied and just sort of getting away with it. And nobody is stepping up. James Carville was ridiculous and saying that we just need to play possum. And people are ready to fight. I've been to a lot of protests. I've talked to a lot of Democrats, and they don't want to sit on the sidelines. They want to fight. I mean, it's just, And I don't know. And so what you do is you marginalize people, you build an enemy, and then you use that as a web issue. You use misinformation. You use Fox News. You use MAGA media. WHO radio in Des Moines is toxic. You just put people in this entirely different environmental sphere just to break up, the government and cause pain. And there's this odd little thing going around about how all the billionaires want to build this new utopian society for themselves, break down the power of the state, create these independent cityscapes across the land where every billionaire, controls one of them. And, I wouldn't take it so seriously because it sounds so outrageous. But then, I heard them talking on it on a New Yorker podcast about it, and they were sort of stunned. And so I just think we always need to look at the worst case scenario and recognize that these people are going to squeeze every nickel out of us that we can. And all the legislation is pointing this way too, extending the hours for kids to work, lowering the age for kids to work, making the kids' parents have to work 3 jobs. This is just fantastic. We're a captured population where we listen and appreciate every crumb that gets tossed at us. And so making us weak and hungry and frightened. I mean, and it's working. And a lot of the Democrats are just not doing anything about it. But some are. But we can be proud of some of our legislators in the Iowa legislature. They're fighting back, and it's so we've got to find our heroes. We have to have our protagonists, the people that are strong enough to speak out. And I think that also we all have to recognize the power in us, that we can stand together and that we're powerful and we can be revolutionary and not just rely on our leaders. In fact, we have to lead, Spencer. All of us, everybody in this room, we have to lead in some way that we can and find comfort in that we're not alone. And so if there's anything that you can do, it doesn't really matter. Find something you love, help a progressive organization. Don't send any money to the National Democratic Party. They'll burn it. Send it to your state party or send it to your support local candidates. Just decide what you can do. Maybe, two of my favorite things in Iowa are Progress Iowa, Iowa CCI, Iowa Citizens for Community Improvement, the Faith and Climate folks. There's a lot of really good people. And you can volunteer for them. If you can't get out and volunteer, you can join, send them money. Otherwise, I'm going to see you on the protest lines. I'm going to go protest Tesla in Urbandale on Saturday, and then I'm going to march to the Capitol. And I think that it's something that we just do what we can do. Just do something. Just do anything. Don't sit and doom scroll. Just recognize what your power is, where you can find joy in the movement, and we can all do something. And I can write, I can document the protests, and that's just pretty much my lane. And we can talk here, and just try to encourage people, but never ever think that you're alone. There's a whole lot of us there with you. And to be clear, it's fascism. It is absolute fascism with the desire to create a white Christian, in air quotes, ethno-state. Why are they erasing Black history? Why are they erasing Native American history? Because they want to wipe them off of the face of the earth. And there's a lot of things that they're doing with people with disabilities too. And the 504 programs. Why are they challenging that helps so many kids? Why is Brenna Bird joining a lawsuit with that? It's like, I don't know, at a broad scale, if you look at all together, it's almost eugenics.
Right.
Trying to design a white master race. I mean, where was the outrage when Trump is trashing minority groups and inviting white South Africans to come? I mean, anyway, I'm rambling. Go ahead, Spencer.
No, you're fine. And I think there is a little bit of hope. I mean, we'll get to this later on, but there is pushback against Elon Musk, and it is coming from the people. When we are getting a chance to vote against him, even when he's spending $19 million in that Wisconsin Supreme Court race, he still lost there. So that does give some hope, and we'll get to that later on here in the show. This is Iowa Revolution, by the way. I'm Spencer. He's Dr. Bob. 212 people here joining us on this Substack live. And by the way, the Imhotep report says you're on the money, Dr. Bob. We also had greetings from Chicago. So thanks to our Chicago listener that chimed in earlier. This is from Gray Media, Dr. Bob. Iowa Republican lawmakers are working to reduce the age to buy and carry a handgun. It's currently 21, but a bill working its way through the Senate lowers it to 18. Richard Rogers with the Iowa Firearm Coalition says state law considers you to be an adult when you turn 18, and he supports the bill. Quoting him here, both the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and Article 1A of the Iowa Constitution guarantee that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. There is no age limit in there. Rogers says that current state law has some quirks. People who are between 18 and 21 can shoot under adult supervision, and they can get a permit if their job requires it. Quoting him again, so you could have a 20-year-old combat veteran who's a fully accredited peace officer in this state, may have a handgun while he's on duty, performing the duty that require the handgun, and the rest of the time, if he wants to plink in the backyard or something, he has to have his mommy with him. Connie Ryan with the Interfaith Alliance of Iowa says that people age 18 to 20 are responsible for a disproportionate share of mass shootings and school shootings. Quoting her here, guns remain the number one cause of death for our young people, the number one cause of death for young people, and more guns in the death of young people, or more guns in the hands of young people at a younger age is a public safety issue. Ryan also contends that lowering the age could put more young people at home.
Yes, I agree. This one is a really tough one for me, having grown up in rural Iowa. I wrote a piece about guns for the New York Times, gun culture in rural America. I think it was in 2018 or so. But it's, for a lot of people out here, I'm not saying anything that anybody on the left has said about more deaths. I'm not saying that anything that there's anything inaccurate about that. I think that, however, this is a losing issue for Democrats. I think there's way too many guns on the street. I really think there are. But I don't think we can put the toothpaste back in the tube. I think that my Republican friends, well, first part of the deal is guns are tools here. They're just tools. They're important in rural America. People use them, people hunt with them. And that if we want to keep trying to restrict what a lot of people out here see as their Second Amendment rights, we're never going to get in power again. And so I'm of many minds on this, but I just think kids' brains really aren't, all together until they're like 25.
You're 71. So, your brain is not fully developed, Dr. Bob.
My brain isn't. My brain isn't. But anyway, I just think that people are adults at 18, and if they can serve, I know this isn't going to be, a lot of people aren't going to like it, but I just think that it would be nice to stabilize around one point. We're not going to get all those guns off of the street. And I just think that we can keep fighting this issue and keep losing in rural America. So I'm absolutely, totally torn.
By the way, the name of your article in the New York Times is called Why Gun Culture is So Strong in Rural America. It was published in March 16th, 2018. So if somebody wants to go read that, they can go to NewYorkTimes.com and check out your article. One thing that I will point out real quick is, we get kind of varying responses from law enforcement when it comes to gun control. I mean, I think a lot of police officers and sheriffs are in favor of more gun control. But I think, again, and you talk about it in your article, just as I'm kind of rereading it here real quick, they don't really, in the rural areas, we still cling to our gods and our guns. I mean, Barack was right. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, he could have put it better.
That's for sure. Let's get into some cock talk here. This is from the AP, some political news. In a feat of determination, New Jersey Democratic Senator Cory Booker held the Senate floor with a marathon speech that lasted all night and into Tuesday night, setting a historic mark to show Democrats' resistance to President Donald Trump's sweeping actions. Booker took to the Senate floor on Monday evening, saying he would remain there as long as he was, quote, physically able. It wasn't until 25 hours and 5 minutes later that the 55-year-old senator, a former football tight end, finished speaking and limped off the floor. It set the record for the longest continuous Senate floor speech in the chamber's history. Booker was assisted by fellow Democrats who gave him a break from speaking by asking him questions on the Senate floor. It was a remarkable show of stamina as Democrats try to show their frustrated supporters that they are doing everything possible to contest Trump's agenda. Yet Booker also provided a moment of historical solace for a party searching for its way forward. By standing on the Senate floor for more than a night and day, refusing to leave, he had broken a record set 60 years ago by then Senator Strom Thurmond of South Carolina, a segregationist and Southern Democrat, to filibuster the advance of the Civil Rights Act in 1957. Quoting Booker here, these are not normal times in our nation, and they should not be treated as such in the United States Senate. The threats to the American people and American democracy are grave and urgent, and we all must do more to stand against them, end quote.
Yeah, I noticed somebody commented on our audio. We apologize. We tried to fix that, and we'll try to do better next time. But I think Cory Booker is fantastic. I got to know him during the 2016 caucus. I actually spent quite a bit of time with him. And one of the things that I look for in a candidate is I really wish that when I talk to somebody that I recognize that they're a better person than I am. And Cory Booker, when I sat and I talked with him for a long time, several times, I just thought, this is a very, very good man. This guy is a better person than I would like our president to be a better person than me, not a worse person than me, like Donald Trump. But Cory Booker, if you don't know him, but if you get a chance to speak with him, he's so kind, he's so compassionate, he's so smart, he's just a good person. And for him to break the record of that racist Strom Thurmond is just something of great historic significance. And that Cory Booker is with that moment. Some people will say, oh, it's just symbolic, it wasn't anything of any significance. Well, never, it didn't matter. It mattered. Cory Booker stood there and stood up for us, stood up for America, stood up for democracy. And Cory Booker is a great man, and we need more people like Cory Booker. And Cory Booker dropped out. I think he should have stayed in. He wasn't getting the money. It was too fragmented. But he was.
Well, I was going to say, I was excited to talk about this story with you, Dr. Bob, because you did have a pretty close relationship with Cory Booker. He almost used you as an advisor to his campaign early on as well. So can you just tell us a little bit about kind of how your relationship started and how it blossomed? And, obviously you're still a supporter of his.
Well, I wasn't an advisor. I talked to anybody that asked me a question, I'll give my thoughts on. One of his people was a friend, Matt Fidel, who's now in law school out east somewhere. But anyway, he gave one of his first presentations was in Illinois, in Indianola. And so I was in Indianola and I watched it. Matt came up to me and said, was it too much like too churchy? Was it, like preaching? And, how would you change it if it were me? And I said, Johnny Cash's mom took Johnny Cash to a vocal teacher, and they met. The vocal teacher talked with Johnny, listened to him sing, and then he went back to his mom and said, all I could do is ruin this kid. All I could do is ruin Johnny Cash. And anybody that tries to say anything about how Cory Booker is doing his speeches or how he's, anybody that wants to change anything about Cory Booker is just like messing with Johnny Cash. I said, you just let him go. We had long conversations. I sat on his bus with his team and people, and we just talked about how the caucuses were going. It was really nice. I've got a photo somewhere of that. But I spent a lot of time with a lot of candidates, but Cory Booker was one of my favorites.
This is from the AP. Employees across the massive U.S. Health and Human Services Department received notices Tuesday that their jobs were being eliminated part of a sweeping overhaul designed to vastly shrink the agencies responsible for protecting and promoting Americans' health. The cuts include researchers, scientists, doctors, support staff, and senior leaders, leaving the federal government without many of the key experts who have long guided U.S. decisions on medical research, drug approvals, and other issues. This is a tweet from Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy. The revolution begins today. As he's celebrating swearing in of his latest hires, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, the new director of the National Institutes of Health, and Martin McCary, the new Food and Drug Administration commissioner. Kennedy's post came just hours after employees began receiving emailed layoff notices. He later wrote, quote, "Our hearts go out to those who have lost their job," but said that the department needs to be recalibrated to emphasize disease prevention. Kennedy announced a plan last week to remake the department, which through its agencies is responsible for tracking health trends and disease outbreaks, conducting and funding medical research, and monitoring the safety of food and medicine, as well as for administering health insurance programs for nearly half the country.
His heart doesn't go out to anybody. There is no empathy in anybody in this. Sure, let's work on, to make food healthier and safer, but we also have to deal with the consequences. You don't fire the researchers, you don't find the support staff, you don't fire these people. They're most of them are doing good work, all of this, and then the relationship to the various research universities. There's all kinds of things to cure cancer, programs underway, Alzheimer's, all kinds of research for all kinds of health, and those kinds of things are going away. This is going to set us back a generation, and the longer it lasts, it's going to set us back. It'll set back medical research. People are going to die. So, we've got a measles outbreak in the Southwest, and we've got, RFK Jr., who's provided, I forget which, Pacific Islands that he was working on, American Samoa maybe, but 85 kids mainly died after people started not, having their kids vaccinated for measles under his guidance. And so this is, he shouldn't have been confirmed. He shouldn't be anywhere, in a position like this. But let's just keep track. There's a death toll. The death toll already for what we've done with USAID, all the kids that are now starving to death because we aren't helping them anymore. The Trump Musk cuts have already resulted in probably hundreds of thousands of deaths. And I don't see that being reported. The New York Times had something on it that was pretty good about a month ago, the people that will die. But we need to keep like a running tally and hold them responsible. And it's not an either or kind of thing. We can work to make people healthier, but then we have to heal people when they're sick. You don't you don't fire all the people that are working on illnesses, put in, people on the other side only. You can work on both sides of it, and they're not. And the reason, and why aren't they? Because they don't care about us. They are all of those people are able to afford whatever they want. They can get whatever treatment that they want. The rest of us can't. It's remarkably sad. And you know what? When I go to Fox News every day, when I listen to WHO radio every day, the MAGA people aren't being told any of this. Everything is doing great. They say that Elon Musk is going line by line, through the budgets. Isn't he fantastic? He's such a great guy. They're just totally being duped. And that's what fascists do.
So this isn't on the agenda, Dr. Bob, but I did want to get your thoughts. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General for the United States, is now directing at least the federal case against Luigi Mangione, the person that killed the United Healthcare CEO. She is directing federal prosecutors to go after the death penalty in that case. And I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on, to me, it's just yet another example of the government trying to put their thumb on us little guys, not to F around with the health insurance companies.
Oh, this is death penalty. It's a warning. To anybody that wants to resist. It's all of these are warnings. All of these are threats. The death penalty, to put it out there, is supposedly used as a deterrent. But at the same time, I don't think we should be killing CEOs, but I don't think the CEOs should be approving algorithms that deny people coverage, and so they die. How many people die by being denied coverage by the health insurance company? How many people die? Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands a year because of an algorithm that's created to drive profits to them. So there's no punishment. So it's legal for them to create algorithms that result in the deaths of tens of thousands, but a guy who shouldn't have killed the United Healthcare CEO, he gets the death penalty. What the asymmetry of this is just remarkable. And the insurance industry, top to bottom, is corrupt. It shouldn't be a profit, shouldn't be for profits. There should be, healthcare for us all, a public option anyway. But so no, it's they're controlling the narrative in ways that the media sanctions, society sanctions. Oh, it's health insurance companies. They can do all that. Oh, he can kill tens of thousands of people legally, but one guy does it illegally and he shouldn't have done it. One gets the death penalty. The other becomes, a multimillionaire.
And it's obvious that they're making an example of him. That's why you give him the death penalty and don't opine on other cases that are going on, which probably include much more violent criminals. I mean, this Luigi guy had no record, right? I mean, basically no record. It's not like he was a violent criminal.
No. Fundamentally misguided, but yeah, it just is what it is. And they're going to keep, this is just one of the strategies of making everybody fearful, trying to keep us in line. And then, there's all kinds of other little things that they do as well. I think the Iowa legislature just voted to end the training where police officers are taught to de-escalate a moment. That training's gone. They don't want the fire. They don't want them to de-escalate. This bothered me a few years ago. They took away, the penalties for driving into protesters. You can now drive into protesters.
Right.
It's crazy. They're escalating violence. And so let's say I go to the Tesla place, the protest at Tesla in Urbandale. And so somebody, just throws an egg or something, then it all escalates. And then there's violence. They want escalation. They want to provoke people and then that's the excuse. They're going to provoke people, and then the excuse for more violence is the product of their provocation. So then that becomes the justification of more violence, and that's what they want. And then sooner or later, Trump, then somebody sends in the National Guard and there aren't any more protests. Last year, they tried to make it more difficult to protest. Actually, this year, Republicans tried to put together a bill to make it nearly impossible to protest. So
this is the Iowa Revolution podcast. My name is Spencer. He's Dr. Bob. 284 viewers are joining us right now on our Substack Live. Make sure to follow us on Substack. Either Iowa Revolution, both really, not either, both. Make sure to follow both Deep Midwest and Iowa Revolution. While you're at it, also make sure you follow along with Cedar Creek Nature Notes, a much more chill, laid-back Substack from Dr. Bob, just taking a walk in the woods. And you're an anthropologist by trade. The doctor in Dr. Bob Leonard is your PhD in anthropology. And I've seen people talk about this in the past. I mean, in past cultures, murdering a leader was a solution to problems. Period. If somebody was out of control and leading them in the wrong direction, or doing things that the majority of the tribe or whatever didn't like, they would kill that tribal leader. Am I correct?
Yeah, I mean, it happens in the military and war too. It's called fragging. You take out the
I'm
opposite.
just saying, I think this health insurance guy is a little bit of fragging.
Well, right, but I'm not going to condemn not going to condone any of that. So, I mean, violence isn't the answer. The civil rights movement taught us violence isn't the answer, and I just hope everybody agrees.
But wasn't it the answer? We talked about this right after it happened, and health insurance changed some policies right after that happened. So maybe it is the answer. And I mean, I'm not going to condone violence necessarily either, but also he committed way more violence, that Brian Johnson or whatever that CEO's name is. Way more violence. So if we're talking about the scales of justice here, in reality, not by what the government is telling us to believe, then that guy frickin' deserved it, man.
Yeah,
He frickin' deserved it.
No, he was a victim of the system too. It's
victims of the system rarely make 6 or even 7 figures a year, Dr. Bob.
Still caught up in the norm. It was all normalized to him. It's normalized to much of America. He was a victim of the system too. He thought
maybe Luigi is the one that's snapping his finger saying this is not the way it should be.
Well, yeah, and he's right, and I expect more violence, but that doesn't mean I'm for it. I'm not for it. I expect it, but that I don't want it to happen. The civil rights movement taught us that peaceful protests are the way to go. And, maybe yelling and humiliating Chuck Grassley. I mean, that's fine too, but no, it's not okay. It's just not. There's all kinds of things that society and that capitalism has imposed upon us that we think that it's normal. I was in Des Moines, I was at the Capitol, and I'm driving to Pella. I have a meeting in Pella at 2. And there's by the side of the road, walking on Highway 163, it's a 2-lane highway. It's a big highway. And there was a man with crutches on the side of the road, walking. He wasn't hitchhiking, but he was a man on crutches. And I didn't stop. Why? Because we don't stop. I mean, I often talk to people like that, but I was too busy. And it was normalized that I shouldn't stop because I was too busy. I had to meet with you, and I shouldn't help that guy. And so the normal thing for me to do is just drive by and say, oh, that poor guy. When there's been some kind of systemic state sponsored structural violence that put that guy on the side of the road. And then this was a young guy, and it was just, I don't know. So we all get caught up in what is normal in our society. And this insurance agent, this insurance boss, that was normal. That's capitalism. Profits over everything. There's no common good. It's only profits, and they're writing the laws. And so then everything is normalized, and we accept it, and we think that it's all good. But really, if you think about it, it's not okay. I wrote a piece that I saw an old woman sitting on the sidewalk. I wrote a piece called An Old Woman Sitting on the Sidewalk. Why is an old woman sitting on the sidewalk with nothing? She had mental health programs, but there was nothing there to help them. And so, all the people that we see that are in difficult circumstances and everybody thinks, well, they're all failures. It was their fault. They were making the wrong life decisions. We don't know what's motivating everybody, but we do know that the system works against lots of people. And we normalize and accept. My parents were driven into bankruptcy by my mother's cancer. And the big problem at the time was something called the donut hole. And everybody said, oh, there's the problem with the donut hole, but nobody ever did it. It drove how many people into bankruptcy? But it was normal. Oh, that's just the way it is. Oh, that's too bad. So this guy, the United Healthcare CEO, was part of that same structure, and he's as much as a victim as the guy they're going to give the death penalty to.
We'll agree to disagree on that. This is from NBC News. Susan Crawford has won a seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. NBC News projects, of course, she does. She did win, and the loser did concede last night, allowing liberals to maintain their narrow majority on the battleground state's highest court and defying Elon Musk after he spent millions of dollars to oppose her. Crawford, a Dane County Circuit judge who was backed by Democrats, secured a 10-year term on the court over Brad Schimmel, a Waukesha County Circuit judge and a former Republican Attorney General. As the first major battleground state election of President Donald Trump's second term, the technically nonpartisan contest drew national attention and became the most expensive state Supreme Court race in U.S. history. The outcome is a setback for Trump and his billionaire advisor Musk. Trump endorsed Schimmel in his final stretch of the race, while Musk injected himself into the center of it, spending huge sums of money, visiting Wisconsin days out from Election Day, and frequently posting about the race on his X feed. In turn, Democrats and progressive groups made Musk their primary villain, attacking his influence on the race and his efforts to slash federal jobs in the government through the Department of Government Efficiency. So we beat him. We beat the billionaire.
That's right, we did. Look at those people in Wisconsin. Look, they rose up and they had more power than the richest man on earth because they joined together. They went to the polls. They objected. They cast this, authoritarian plant in the judicial system that could have changed Wisconsin, into a gerrymandered state forever. So no, this is great hope, and so if the people of Wisconsin can do it, so can the people of Iowa, so can the people of wherever you live. And I'm just going to give a shout out. I saw somebody said that they're watching from Dublin, Ireland. You know what? Thank you for that. And please tell everybody that you know that the American people disagree. The vast majority, I think now, of the American people disagree with what Donald Trump is doing around the world. And we're fighting back. And the people of Wisconsin give me great hope.
Yeah, I want to shout out, also got a listener from Annapolis, Maryland, Claudia Kane Garrett. And yeah, where was that listener? Or yeah, trying to find that name, that person from Dublin. But yeah, thanks again to tuning in from Ireland. This is Iowa Revolution. My name is Spencer. He's Dr. Bob. Thanks to the 312 folks that are watching right now on Substack Live. Make sure you follow us on Substack, Iowa Revolution. Also, Deep Midwest Politics and Culture is Dr. Bob Substack, where he writes about politics and culture. He also has Cedar Creek Nature Notes, which is more just taking a walk with Dr. Bob in the woods. So a little bit more laid back, chill atmosphere at Cedar Creek Nature Notes. Are you ready for the factoid of the week, Dr. Bob?
Sure. Let me just say that without me being in the woods for an hour and a half or 2 hours every morning, I would be, if you think I'm crazy now, you should see me if I wasn't on my walk.
Bouncing off the walls. By the way, I was telling Laura Bellin the other day, we were talking about, she was closing tabs before we were doing our show, KHOI's Capital Week. By the way, follow that one as well. A lot of people tell Laura, like, oh, I didn't even know you had a radio show. But yeah, Laura has a radio show. It's freaking awesome. And it's on KHOI. And then she also has her own Substack. I believe it's just Iowa Politics with Laura Bellin. But search her out as well. And yeah, you'll definitely thank me later for getting her reporting in that radio show as well. A lot of information gets packed into that just half-hour show. And Dr. Bob, you and I are about 39 minutes into this. This is the factoid of the week. Did you know it's illegal to own just one guinea pig in Switzerland?
Well, that's interesting. That seems like a kind thing to do. I don't know if it should be illegal. It just sort of seems that one would want to do that. I've never gotten by with just getting, one dog or one cat when I went to the Humane Society. So it just seems like they need a friend.
Well, yeah, and it's considered animal abuse because guinea pigs are known to be social beings. And if there is just one in the cage or whatever constraint you have them in, they get lonely. You don't want a depressed guinea pig.
No, but it's sort of, I don't know. I think the Republicans would condemn that because that kindness and compassion that somehow got to be related to guinea pig DEI, right?
Right. They would find some way to go up against this. They would.
Absolutely.
Top 5 Canadian comedians, Dr. Bob. Are you ready?
Probably not.
By the way, thank you to Van Garman. They say thank you, Spencer and Robert. Enlightening and valuable recap. Yeah, and we come to you each and every week. I think we're going to continue to do this live each and every week, planning on doing it Wednesdays at noon like we have been doing the past several weeks. And then this does also get posted to our RSS feed, so you can find it on Spotify or iHeart or Apple or whatever. And then we also post it to listen on demand on our Iowa Revolution Substack, also along with our show notes as well. So this is top 5 Canadian comedians. By the way, I know the audio is bad on my side. Tried to figure it out. Not sure. We're almost done. So thanks to everybody that wrote it out with us here on this Substack live. So top 5 Canadian comedians. Number 5 is Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah, he's great. He was
Number 4.
He was just like a regular actor for years before he turned to be a comedic actor. He was a leading man.
This is probably more Canadian comedic actors. Obviously, there is I was going to do just Canadian actors, but there's way too many good Canadian actors, to be honest. So I'm trying to break this down. Maybe we'll do like dramatic Canadian actors at another time. But yeah, this is like comedic actors, because not necessarily comedians, although some of these guys, did do stand-up comedy. Number 4, I believe he did do stand-up comedy early on, Seth Rogen.
I've heard of him, but I couldn't point him out.
Are you kidding me?
Seth Rogen was after my time.
Well, I think you'd like his stuff. Number 3 is Jim Carrey.
Too much potty humor.
Number 2 is John Candy.
John Candy's great.
I knew you'd like him. And number 1, I know you like Norm Macdonald.
I like Norm Macdonald, but I'm going to tell you the truth. I really didn't know much about him until after he died and I saw all the tributes. Well,
you should immerse yourself in some Norm Macdonald. I think I've even done top 5 Norm Macdonald quotes on this show before. I've done so many top 5s I get lost. Sometimes I'm not even sure how many I've done, what I've done, what I haven't done.
Life's too short to dig into Norm Macdonald.
Well, I think life's too short to deal with this bad audio any longer, Dr. Bob, so I appreciate you. I appreciate the 322 people that have joined us here on this Substack Live. And again, make sure to follow us, iowarevolution.substack.com and deepmidwest.substack.com. Also, Cedar Creek Nature Notes, and also follow Laura Bellin on Substack while you're at it. Just click follow if you're on Substack, especially if you're on me or Dr. Bob's page or our pages. All of the recommendations there are great writers, great people. So make sure you follow along and we can all do this together.
Let me add one thing. I saw Jonathan Larson come on. Jonathan Larson has a great Substack. Jonathan Larson Substack. And then he's got, plug your ears if you don't want to hear vulgarity, but he's got a great Substack called The Fucking News.
All right.
So thanks, Jonathan, for coming on.
Good deal. All right. Yep. Thanks to everybody that joined us. And again, this will be available for on-demand listening later on, wherever you get your podcast. So, Dr. Bob, I always appreciate it. I always love our conversations and can't wait till we do it again next week.
Yep. Thanks, Spencer.